Linux experiences on Deck Edition. Let's have a look at a little bit older game named Mad Max. It was released 2015, developed by Avalanche Studios, who are known for the Just Cause series, and was published by Warner Bros. The game is marked as verified on the deck, but there is even a native Linux port available from Feral Interactive, and you have access to that as well, even though when you have a look at the settings of Mad Max, it will show you that it is using the Proton version. So the Proton version is selected. It is Proton 7.0-2, selected by Valve Testing. Nevertheless, when we have a look here at the properties, go to compatibility, we can select the native Linux version. If you do that, you checkmark this and select here Steam Linux Runtime. The game will update then, which takes a little bit, or you even have to force that to update. It's downloading just a few megabytes, and this is using OpenGL as the backend. I will also come to the Vulkan version that's available, but let's have a look here real quick how the game works. It will tell you unsupported Linux distribution or version. You can ignore that if you are doing this at all. So I'd recommend stay probably with the Proton version, but nevertheless we are going to have a look here. Because it's working well. It will start with the launcher, and that's probably a reason why the Proton version has been chosen. Because the launcher, you cannot click here without pressing the Steam button. So the mouse can move around, but you have to press and hold the Steam button, and then you can click the play button. I would recommend do not skip the launcher, because for bringing up the launcher again, you have to press the control key while the game is starting, and that's not really possible on the deck, with at least not with the gamepad controls. So I have started this game, I've played it a little bit already. This is an older save. I need to start and finish this properly. And as the deck is meant for games to play off your backlog, maybe this will be one of those games I'm going to play here. But let's have a look here. The settings are for graphics set to... This is based, if I remember correctly, from the high preset. As I have tinkered around a little bit with this, the cloud save is of course synced, and that's why the settings have been changed. But when I installed this initially, it has been set to high. I'm going to click resume here. Performance is great, more or less for all of the 3 versions we are going to have a look at. As said, this is a native Linux version using OpenGL. And we are entering here a base where we can have a look around. There are some aliasing artifacts going on. You can see those at the edges, but that doesn't change no matter which quality setting you choose. On the deck's screen, it's always visible. But yeah, this performs really well. Let's have a look at the overlay. We are hitting 60 FPS, but we are not getting it all the time. So it's dipping from time to time. But the experience here on deck is very smooth with the native Linux version. You can walk around without issues. Have a look here. Looks nice. Alright. Now I want to show you what happens. I have to quit the game, exit to main menu, because we are switching now to the Vulkan version. And that is the only way where you can play the game with the native Vulkan renderer. And this is the Linux version. But you've seen power consumption was at 25 watts, which is pretty high. So we have to quit this and then go again to the settings and properties. We have selected the native Linux runtime. We are going to betas, and we can select the Vulkan_beta experimental update. This is selected. Again, we have to wait for the download. This is even smaller, just an engine upgrade. So here we have the launcher again, where we have to press the Steam button to click play. And of course, these are the issues where Valve is having a look at. They want the launchers, if there are any, to work with the gamepad controls. But I guess this won't be updated anymore, as this is already pretty old. Nevertheless, we can use it and have a look at it. So the save we are loading is at the same position as before. We are entering that base. This time also there was not this warning about the unsupported Linux version. Settings here are again... Oh, it changed to custom, that's interesting. Let's set this to high to have a better comparison. We're going to resume. And here, what my observation is, that the FPS are a little bit more stable, which is apparently not really true. This thing. So it looks the same. Maybe there was some background compilation going on, because my experience was it's hitting 60 F more constantly than the OpenGL version. But yeah, it totally looks the same. But nevertheless, the Vulkan version is running here as well. Going to have a look at the same spots here. Works as well. So we have the possibility to choose between those versions. But also here it's using 25 watts all the time. So battery consumption is pretty high and will drain the battery pretty fast. So not that long play sessions without a power supply. And that's why we are going to switch to the setting that Valve has chosen for this game. And then we can see why this is happening. It is not only because there is no launcher. So you go to the properties again, compatibility, uncheck this one. Probably it's also a good idea to go back to no beta, wait for the update to finish. It's downloading again a few hundred megabytes. And when we play this here now, there is no launcher. It will use DirectX 11, which is then transformed to Vulkan. You can totally set the settings to high as well, and it still works pretty smooth. Let's see if it changed this again. Oh, this is even set to very high. Interesting. Nevertheless, we go to high, as it was before. Resume game. Apparently there are different settings for the Linux version and the Windows version. For synchronizing the saves, or the settings at least. But you can see it's already less than 25 watts. And from what I've seen, it can even go down to 15. So the optimization for the Proton version seems to be better than for the Vulkan version. But we have to admit, this was one of the first Vulkan versions. And probably the optimizations haven't been that great back then. And so it's interesting that it's still at 25. Maybe those are settings depending from where I'm coming from. When I started this the first time with Proton, it was sitting at 15. So, well, if you want to show something, it always does not work. Right. Because the 26 watts, that seems pretty much high. And that's not really true. Also, it's not... the fan is not lasting as much. Maybe there is now, with the recent update, something has changed. Unfortunately, I cannot show you the lower battery consumption. Interesting. But believe me, I've seen it already. I was testing this before. And that's why it's advised to play the Proton version. The game feels the same, looks the same in all 3 versions. Nevertheless, you can choose to play the native Linux version, which I prefer. But in regards of the Steam Deck, probably it's better for getting a longer battery life for the game and have longer play sessions to choose the Proton version. Thank you so much for watching on this one. Have a good one. See you on the next video and bye-bye.